Hey there, it's TJ Denzer, Senior News Editor for Shacknews here, talking about some Dune Awakening gameplay. We had a chance to cover this game recently. It was one of the first preview events that Funcom has done for this game. And if you didn't know, Funcom is the group that did Conan Exiles, very popular survival game set in the Conan universe. And it looks like they're doing something similar-ish with Dune. But obviously this is going to be like more. This game has been in the works for like more than 5 years at this point, and Funcom is going all out. What we got to play at the event in Oslo, Norway, was kind of a vertical slice. It was one section of the game, but like the ambitions here are kind of incredible. So at the start of the game, it starts out with like the typical survival affair. You are a character in this universe, which, by the way, one of the twists on it is that the Dune Awakening takes place as an alternate reality of Frank Herbert's universe, where Paul Atreides was not born, and instead Lady Jessica had a daughter instead of a son with a high mental power, and things changed because of that. The Atreides and the Harkonnen almost entirely wipe out the Fremen, for what I know, and I might be getting that a little bit wrong, because there are going to be Fremen elements in the story here, and a lot of other things changed. There is no God Emperor, there is no savior of Dune, there is no savior of the Fremen people. So that ends up with you. You make a character that can be in several skill trees, including Soldier, Mentat, Bene Gesserit, and one more. And they all specialize in different forms of combat. Like, the Bene Gesserit can stop people in their tracks with mental spells. The Mentat uses different technologies to overcome their enemy and can counter certain psionic spells. Oh, and Blade Master. Blade Master is the fourth one, which obviously Blade Master is going to be close quarters combat and melee specialized, and Soldier is going to be kind of firearms and ordnance specialized. And once you have that figured out, like, you get to choose your background, where you came from, whether you were a slave or a aristocrat, and you get put on this transport that crash lands on the planet. And from there, you do like the normal survival spiel. You go to work, you pick up resources, you get a mining laser pretty soon, which is fun to use, because basically what you do is you scan different materials that can be scanned, and it gives you a little diagram to cut with the laser, and it breaks it up into pieces, and the quality you get depends on how closely you follow the cut guide that's given to you. So there is a little bit of actual like finesse and getting the most out of the materials that you're farming. You build your base, and mind you, you are on Arrakis. You were in the dunes. You were in the spice, so to speak. I was worried that it might be a little bit boring. I'm not crazy about desert biomes when it comes to open world gaming. I think that they can be very boring. I think that Funcom does a good job of breaking up the monotony of a desert by having things like the sandworms. So the sandworms are a factor in this game. If you're wandering in the open space, eventually you will attract a sandworm. And the only way to avoid being eaten is to move carefully between different rocky formations that the sandworm can't attack through. But it is kind of cool when you kind of get its attention, because out of nowhere you'll see like the seismic activity. There's like a gauge that checks your seismic activity near you, and if it starts going wild, you know the sandworm is like within maybe 50 meters of you, and you'll see it sometimes just pop out of the desert dunes and into the sky, like letting loose a roar. And then you better get out of there, because that thing is either going to come up underneath you and swallow you whole, or it's going to make like a shark and just go on a warpath for you. Outside of that, you can build bases, you can build structures, you can even pack up like your stuff and move it around as a single unit when you want to move your base. We got to play a little bit of like dungeon play, where like you go into different structures and hunt down and fight against like raiders that are in there, and you hunt down different materials that you need for your equipment. There's a lot of building in this game, there's a lot of crafting in this game, and you will end up having to farm for quite lengthy periods of time and wander around the area, like looking for raider camps to attack and get materials and weaponry and stuff from. You will also get to eventually get your hands on various vehicles, like one of which is the Ornithopter. And we got to play with it just for a little bit, and it is cool. They did a very good, fun job of putting the Ornithopter together for that game. And I didn't get to play much of it, but there is going to be a lot of vehicle play in this game. And I suspect it's going to be very, very important because you're going to need a way to outrun sandworms later on when rocky formations are a bit more spread out. For what we got to play, it felt like very typical survival fare, maybe a little bit more refined than what Funcom has done in the past, because they've been at this for a very long time at this point. But what comes next is kind of even more cool. There's going to be 4 major sections to this game. At the start, it's just surviving for yourself, getting your provisions, getting your feet underneath you, building a base, and surviving, being able to survive the world of Dune. And that includes procuring water and spice as resources to be able to hold on to. Water is hugely important in this game, and you end up building the components to harvest water off of enemy combatants once you've killed them. So you actually take their blood and bring it back to a refinement machine, and it separates the water out from it. You can also just straight up drink the blood, but it makes you sick. So anyways, yeah. So that's the first pillar of the game, though, is that survival element. Getting the spice, getting the water, building your reliable processes for both, and also building the equipment that you need to survive on the dune's harsh surface. After that comes getting together with other players and starting to interact with the factions a little bit. Harkonnen and Atreides are already confirmed as part of this whole thing. Funcom also confirmed to this that there will be other factions that will come into play later on. So that means that you'll be working between different factions, getting their interest, getting their trust. You'll gain different blueprints that are specific to Atreides or Harkonnen. You'll gain different blueprints that are specific to your armor type. As a soldier, you might wear heavy armor, but as a mentat, maybe less so. And there are Harkonnen and Atreides versions of armor. After that, it comes to, you get into factions that start battling with each other on a large scale and building out the basis of an empire. And that's where social and political stuff comes into play. And in the end game of all this, Funcom is hoping that players who have partnered up with and made organizations with other players that have made it to kind of the end game, they're going to be partaking in a social, economical, political tug of war to try to keep the power and the resources that they've accumulated throughout the game. And they weren't ready to show that stuff yet. But it is something that they are working very hard to fine-tune. I kind of hope they are able to stick the landing because I really want to see what that looks like. They have taken a little bit of inspiration, from what I understand, from EVE Online. They really like the social political nature of EVE's player base. We're kind of CCP Games gives players the trappings to kind of go out and do their own thing, and they form their communities and their stories on the backs of EVE's foundation. And it sounds like Funcom wants to have a similar sort of thing. It's going to be interesting to see how they work out the process of getting from that original survival place up to the high-powered social political machine. But for what we've got here and what we played, it was a very interesting look at what Dune Awakening is. It was interesting to engage in firearms and melee combat because shields are still here in this game, and unlike in other games, shields just straight up block bullet fire. And the only way to get around a shield is that you have to wait until the other person fires and their shield goes down, or you have to get in close with a blade and do a slow blade stab into their shield, which does damage. But you have to stun them if you're going to do that, because if you just try to swing on them, they can dodge out of the way and hit you back. Combat was interesting. Exploration, I was surprised to see that Dune is actually not half bad to walk around on. I hope it'll continue to be that way across multiple play sessions, dozens of hours, but it's looking promising. Also, I got to see a little bit of the faction interaction, doing jobs for Atreides and or Harkonnen, and figuring out like what they want from you and how it benefits you. So it wasn't a incredibly long preview. We didn't get to go past that survival element, but I'm much more excited than I was coming in. I'm aware of what Funcom does. I know what they've done with Conan Exiles, and I think it's very cool the kind of niche they've carved out in that space. However, Conan really wasn't my kind of game, and I think a big part of that is that I'm not crazy into like sword and shield survival building. I've had a little too much of that, and I'm kind of burnt out on it. I am, however, into what Dune has for us. I love that universe. I love the sci-fi nature of it. I love the lore of it. I love the sandworms. I love the shields. I love the blades, the blade combat, and I love the vehicles. It might be like varying mileage for other people as you wander through a desert biome, but I think that Dune Awakening has a lot of the lessons that Funcom has learned over the years, or at least I can see a few of those lessons in practice while I was playing an early build of the game. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I think that everybody should keep an eye on this and see what they have for us as time goes on, and they should get to show more of what Dune Awakening is about. Again, this has been TJ Denzer, Senior News Editor for Shacknews.com, and thank you for following our coverage, and I hope you enjoy what we have brought to you for Dune Awakening. Stay tuned for more, whether on Shacknews.com or on our YouTube channels, Shacknews, Shacknews Interviews, and Shacknews VODs. We have an interview coming, and I hope that you'll enjoy it when it goes live. Until next time, take care, and stay tuned for more.